Welcome back, everyone. I thought it was just about time for a uranium update. Why? Well, it's been a while, but also Cigar Lake was just announced that it's coming back. So let's just start right off with Cigar Lake. I hope no one was expecting it to stay offline forever because that was, in my view, never really in the cards. Remember last time, Cameco said that they were losing, what was it, $8 to $10 million a month keeping Cigar Lake down. So it wasn't going to stay down forever. And then when they put it back down in December, again, people were talking, is this 1 or 2 months or 3 or 4? Well, it's been almost 4 months. So realistically looking back, we've reached kind of a more optimistic assessment. Now, some people were saying now, since they're here, it might take till May or June. You know, that's optimistically 2 more months. So optimistically 3 million pounds. Now I'm sure some people are wondering, okay, why are they doing it now when it doesn't seem necessarily more controlled than it was a few weeks ago? And well, I guess they believe they can do it safely. If they can open it safely, Cigar Lake is probably more essential than a number of supposedly essential things that have never been really disrupted as much. So if they can do it safely, they can do it. And, you know, I think that you also look around Canada and approximately where we are, even though, it's not making the greatest progress compared to many places globally. We're at the point where in other provinces, at least, the essential workers are among the next planned to be vaccinated. And, one of the categories, I remember specifically, different province, but the next to be vaccinated was mine workers in remote locations. And that was specific, but it specifically made me think that could be cigar could be soon. Now, I'm sure many people are wondering or thinking, well, how will the market take this? And really, I think it depends. And it depends on what the market was thinking. So if the market was thinking, this is going to happen soon, so I'm not going to buy, and then when it happens, I'm going to buy the dip because people are going to be, upset that it came back. Well, if that's what the market was kind of assuming, I'd have a suspicion that it might not go down exactly that way. That said, if the market is thinking, well, this is going to stay down until I become rich and then, it'll come back after I sell, well, then, you might have some people who are in the trade because they thought, okay, it's going to stay down and that's going to cause the uranium price to go up because that and only that will cause the uranium price to go up. If people are thinking along those lines, well, then you probably will see some, let's call it tourist selling in the market. Now, of course, there's a whole spectrum between those two things and a whole range of ideas that the market have about this. But the point is, it really depends on where expectations are of what the market was thinking was supposed to happen. So, realistically, the difference is 1 or 2 months, and let's say, this is not going to come back immediately. It's probably going to take, a few weeks to more than that. So, it's realistically 1 month different, 1.5 million pounds, 2 million pounds. It's not nothing, but it's not something either. And remember, in addition to this not being a tomorrow fully producing 18 million pounds a year pace uh, event, Cigar Lake was never part of never part of my thesis here. And yet we had a bonus 5 million pounds this year. Will probably be more by the time all is said and done. And that was something that probably wasn't counted on December 13th last year, right before Cigar went down. So even with Cigar coming back, Cameco will remain a net buyer in the spot market. This isn't Cameco producing so they can sell. I mean, I'm sure most of you know this, have long known this. And look, I'm not saying that any of these next 3 points mean anything, but you kind of look at allegorically what's kind of happening right now. And you look, okay, juniors buying out to December delivery. December 2022 was announced by one particular purchase. Denison, apparently they needed 17 transactions to buy 2.5 million pounds. Now this isn't too uncharacteristic. I mean, in terms of, many transactions are 100,000 pounds in the spot market, but particularly having to go to a lot of different locations and down to the last few purchases to get those last £250,000. It's obviously doesn't seem like there's tons and tons of material kind of bouncing around waiting to be sold because the price ticked up. Also, this has been talked about for a long time because it was seen coming. And again, most people probably knew not to expect a one-off event type thing, but Cominac and Ranger are now both closed. Not because of price, because they're gone. And so because of how the contracts smooth over and because of inventories on the utility balance sheet, this wasn't going to cause an immediate impact. But it's not a problem that's being solved right now. So, the market isn't, this just shows the market isn't snapping to fix supply. So I titled this slide Scraping the Bottom of the Barrel because, look, I won't say there's no uranium out there. We just went through, there's some at various points in the curve, and a small amount gets added week by week, month by month, however you want to call it, to the spot market from those with offtakes. But what I will say is we have gotten past the point of type of, we'll smooth it out from inventory as the market gradually figures out where it needs to go. That didn't happen, and that would have probably needed to happen years ago at this point. Now, I'm not saying that the move will be in a snap. I'm not saying the move will be soon or tomorrow. Not at all. I'm saying that at this point, it looks to me like there are a lot of parties that are counting on them being able to buy the same amount, the exact same pounds over the next few years, and seeing as the ownership of a particular pound can only go into one reactor, at some point here, the market is going to have to correct this problem. And it's seeming like the time left before it figures that out, well, it's at the very least borrowed. I just realized I put this slide right after talking about borrowed time. No intention of, I'm not trying to make a point here. But the other thing I will say is Uranium Participation Corp. Now, they have apparently stated that they need a approximately 20% premium to their NAV. Now, they did have this briefly, and I can't remember what, I went on a rant somewhere saying I think they need approximately this much. I think I used high teens, but I thought 20 sounds reasonable. And the reason is there's a lot of discounts and fees along the way. Now, I still think that they should have an at-the-market running, and I'd be interested in knowing why they don't. That said, going back to the premium for a sec, they did have that type of premium briefly. So they had enough of a premium briefly. However, and I can't talk, I've heard rumors, but none that I can discuss about why they didn't when they had that premium. You can ask them, but I can't, I don't know for sure. And what I heard, I can't repeat. Not because it's secret information, just because I don't know firsthand. Point being, hopefully they're just approximately 6% away from being able to raise. The other thing is, a while ago, I noticed that the short interest in UPC was climbing. And as I mentioned somewhere else, I thought at the time that that short interest climbing was due to perhaps some people either thinking or having some type of inkling about a potential raise coming. Now, however, I'm wondering if the link might have been some people having an inkling, if you will, about Cigar Lake returning in the near term from one way or another, or working it out from, different vaccination schedules, for example. Kind of speaking of Kazakhstan. So things, again, don't seem to be going great there. However, I'm not particularly expecting another shutdown. I think it's unlikely, just kind of given what has happened and where we are at this point and what people seem to be thinking. But I really don't know. And I know there are JV partners talking about challenges reaching existing guidance. Now, that has nothing to do with if they would shut down again. I'm just saying that they're already probably feeling some pressure to, keep up with their guidance. And, things could always change, and I'm sure they'll take care of what they think is best for all the parties involved, but I don't know what that will be. That said, I just was going to mention that it is interesting, and I'm not hinting at anything here, but when they shut down, it was this past week of last year. I just had that thought based on the accelerating cases at this time last year and the accelerating cases again this time this year, wondering if there is a corollary. Bottom line is, we've gotten to a point, I think, where supply is a lot more fragile than the thesis. So cigar was never part of the thesis, and if it was part of yours, okay, that's fine. We're looking at different things, but you do what you need to do. I just don't think that it was relevant in the medium term. That said, no idea how the market will take this. There's a lot going on in the market, a lot of people with a lot of thesis. One thing I will say to what I mentioned before is that if there's too many people that were indeed perhaps short based on some catalyst, well then, once the catalyst happens, kind of irrespective of if it works or not, well then the catalyst has happened. So, if there's too many people that were thinking that the market will dip based on that news, then it won't. If people think this is the end of the world for whatever reason, and it wasn't gonna, they weren't thinking it was gonna happen, well then it will, not go well. Who knows how it actually happens though? I do not. Now in conclusion, sure, cigar up again, down again, something to talk about, but realistically, at this point, I think like 95% of the thesis is not really changed by day-to-day news, and the other news, events, things we don't know, kind of what might happen, what won't happen, and we need to kind of wait to find out. I think that's more so like all of that combined, 5%. So realistically, small changes at the margin, but not a big deal. In the end, even if you want it to be really bearish and think, oh, this is a big deal, it's going to take this much longer for the existing uranium to be gone and then the price move. Yeah, but also it takes us this much closer to August, when if the price doesn't move, it might be the time when Kazakhstan has another unfortunate announcement for the demand side of the market. That said, all of this, not investment advice, pure speculations about, just opinions, and not to be acted upon. And with that, I wish everyone the best of days, and until next time, enjoy.